Jane McCarthy, the best storyteller in the history of Spokane, is leaving.
People who knew these two knew they were witnessing a love that was almost legendary.
Jane's leaving a legacy of incredible stories.
This coach's reputation is one any of us would be proud to earn.
Jane's leaving memories of the best people that live here.
Jacob Nordhagen is still a junior.
Jane's leaving stories of heroes whose heroics would have gone unnoticed if not for her stories.
You're doing something right.
Oh, thank you.
Jane's leaving inspiration, the power to overcome incredible obstacles.
Scotty became the U.S. Army's first blind active duty officer.
Tonight we celebrate what Jane leaves behind, her gift of storytelling to move us, to inspire.
It's good to see you here.
There is beauty in the world, so much beauty in the world.
Tonight we also thank Jane by celebrating the inspirational hero she introduced us to.
It's not in your job description to keep a secret.
You're watching a KREM 2 original, Jane's Goodbye, the best of Project Inspire.
All together now.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
And I'm Tom Sherry.
And I'm the one in the middle trying not to cry.
Yeah, we are here to celebrate the amazing Jane McCarthy tonight. After a decade with KREM, Jane is leaving us to join her family in Seattle.
So here's the deal. You were commuting back and forth to Seattle every other weekend, it seemed like, for a full year.
Yeah, it was a long one. So we are happy you don't have to do that anymore, but of course we're sad you're leaving us.
I'm sad too, for sure.
All right. Okay, tonight though, we don't want to focus on the sad. Instead, we want to focus on your amazing career as a journalist right here at KREM.
Boy, and it has been amazing. You started something about 8 years ago that you called Project Inspire.
Right, so it started with Steve Gleason, the Spokane native and NFL star, who learned he had ALS. So in 2012, we watched him raise his fist to the sky in the New Orleans Superdome in the face of this incurable disease. Instead of fading away, though, he chose a no white flags approach to life. So I had a chance to tell a number of stories with Steve and continue to be amazed at how his example inspires everyone around us. So we started Project Inspire here at KREM. It's a series that celebrates Steve's evolving story, but also many local heroes who overcome obstacles and inspire others too.
So tonight we came up with an awesome way to say goodbye to the Inland Northwest by saying thanks to our viewers by celebrating our great local heroes.
Fair warning, everyone, you might find yourself getting a little misty. Some of Jane's storytelling will do that to you.
Well, thank you. This is the good stuff, though. I love all of these people I had the chance to meet over the years.
So Jane will show you some of her favorite stories, and then she'll update what these heroes and their families are doing now.
Right, so again, this all started with Steve Gleason, so that's where we'll start tonight. 2 years ago, I traveled to New Orleans to see how Steve inspires the Saints on game day. It's one of my favorite Steve stories because we see how he's captured hearts, not only here in Spokane, but in New Orleans too.
Who's ready?
Inside Steve Gleason and Michelle Verisco's New Orleans home,
Well, you better get ready.
the stockings are hung in salute to the kind of cheerful chaos only the holidays can bring. Don't be fooled by the sword fighting. This is a welcoming bunch.
Hi, I'm Jane.
Jane and Derek.
Hi. Hi, good to see you.
Although I'm a guest, it feels a bit like I've been here before. If you watched the Gleason documentary, powerful and highly personal, you'd likely feel that familiarity here too.
Vinny, hold yours up a little more.
Plus, who can't relate to the struggle of trying to corral the whole crew into a festive greeting?
Everybody say Merry Christmas. 1, 2, 3.
But this isn't just Christmas card day, it's game day too.
Hi, Steve. Good to see you.
Steve tells me what he loves most about Saints Game Sunday.
Game days are mostly about having fun and creating memories with Rivers and Michelle.
Michelle and Steve married in 2008. Then came now 6-year-old Rivers, named after the peaceful rivers of the Inland Northwest Steve grew to love when he was a child himself.
Spokane and the Inland Empire are where my roots were formed. I'm confident that I am the person I am today because I was raised in the Northwest. I miss the area every day.
And as he loads up with family and friends on the way to the Superdome,
I want cold water.
we're reminded why Steve loves New Orleans too.
This is a unique city, and I've loved the city almost from the very beginning of my time here 18 years ago. There are so many things to love about New Orleans. But ultimately, I love this place because of the people who live here.
And we quickly learn the feeling is intensely mutual. What do you think he means to this city?
Oh, hope, faith and hope.
They're excited to come up to him, and and Steve's the great type of person where he'll always give them the time of day.
Hi there. Happy Sunday. How you doing?
I love Steve Gleason. I love him.
We have that love covered from all angles at the recent Saints-Panthers game. Well, we lost one of those angles, actually, when Rivers got a hold of our GoPro camera. Rivers just lost a tooth, by the way. He's kind of proud of it. Steve and Team Gleason are also proud to be the center of attention today. A local fundraiser drummed up $50,000 for Team Gleason to help people with ALS live a better life now and search for a cure for the future.
But he's done so much good for people. So he took a lemon and made it lemon drop.
Steve's unique brand of inspiration translates into another beloved Gleason game day tradition. Fans know when Steve starts heading toward the tunnel, he's about to greet the Saints players right before they take the field.
People just cheer for him, and go Steve, we love you, Steve, no white flags.
A lot of Saints fans tell me it was that first game back after Hurricane Katrina in the Superdome here when they fell in love with Steve Gleason. And a lot of them, when they talk about that game today, they still get emotional.
He was a big inspiration to me, as well as a lot of other people in the city of New Orleans after Katrina. The first game back in the Dome was very emotional for all of us. I mean, a lot of us were still in trailers. We hadn't had a place to live.
The people of the city still tender and recovering at the time. That's when Gleason flies out of nowhere to block a punt returned for a Saints touchdown.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes! Yes!
It lifted a city in a time of suffering, a moment that 10 years later still conjures up chills.
He's such a hero to all of us in the city, especially after Katrina. And we show him the sun every game. So we're glad he's here, sharing it with us.
It was just amazing, and he was the reason that we all came together again and realized we had to do what we had to do, and we had to get to it.
We had to do what we had to do, and we had to get to it. That's what the people of New Orleans did then, and what Steve did years later when diagnosed with ALS.
No white flags.
It's good to see you here. We've learned Steve isn't about to give up, even in the face of ALS. His mom tells me that's the way Steve was born. But I'm willing to bet a little of New Orleans has rubbed off on Steve, too.
This city breeds and attracts unique, outrageous people, innovative people who see opportunity where others see chaos, persistent people who rebuild when their city or their lives fall apart, fierce people who protect what they love, and love a great deal.
They love and are clearly loved by this guy. It seems the kid from Spokane ended up exactly where he needs to be.
Mm-hmm. The thing that strikes me really about Steve, and you've covered him for the last 8 years, is just his spirit, right? His spirit is always so positive, and his energy is so good. I mean, it's amazing he can keep that up despite what he's enduring.
Right, and he's real about it.
Right.
He says, I have bad days too, but overall, he focuses on what he's blessed to have.
Right.
I love how at that time, I remember the whole Katrina thing. It was just horrible, and then leading up to that game, him making that block, and it's like he inspired the city. You know what I mean? And then now it's payback. When he goes to those games, the fans do that for him.
Right.
It's really, really beautiful.
It's lovely.
Amazing stuff.
So the last time I caught up with Steve and his family was in August here in Spokane. He was here for the Gleason Golf Classic fundraiser. His daughter Gray was toddling around, and Steve got misty-eyed every time he talked with me about his kids, Rivers and Gray. It was super cute. Every time I talk with him too, he makes at least one joke. So he's about to receive the Congressional Gold Medal, joining the likes of the Dalai Lama, Rosa Parks, and Robert Frost. So he told me he's honored to join that A-team, but he also says he's kind of hoping people might now confuse him with Mr. T from the TV show The A-Team.
He might need a little more jewelry for that, right?
I encourage anyone to follow him on Twitter.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Because he is a funny guy. Last Thanksgiving, he tweeted out, "I ate so much turkey, I can't move a muscle."
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just Steve Gleason.
He is hilarious
great.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, well, aside from the stories on Steve, we've also done several stories about the nonprofit that he created.
Yeah, Team Gleason plays a huge role in raising awareness about ALS, and it also helps patients and their families.
So one of those patients Team Gleason helped was John Oakley. His story is one I will hold close to my heart forever and ever. This next story is from the spring of 2016 when I met John coaching his last baseball season at Sacagawea Middle School after he found out he had ALS.
But I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for.
That day in 1939, Lou Gehrig showed remarkable gratitude and grace as ALS forced him to hang up his glove forever.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
You know, I have no regrets. I've lived a great life. Let's go. Let's go.
Today, Spokane's John Oakley must bid adieu to baseball too. Like Gehrig, the Sacagawea Middle School baseball coach and teacher is in the middle of a battle no one volunteers to fight.
To hear that you have, Lou Gehrig's disease, that was pretty tough.
The disease is stripping John of his movement, along with his teaching and coaching career.
I've done 36 years and that's a pretty good run, but it was time to hang it up. My body, physically, I can't do it anymore.
What he calls his swan song season was exceptional, in part because of the two who volunteered as assistant coaches.
You always do a great job.
Adam and Aaron are also John's sons.
It's our time to kind of be there for him. And we kind of start to realize that every day brings something new and a new challenge.
One of those challenges was answered by Team Gleason, the foundation started by Spokane native and fellow ALS patient Steve Gleason.
I just got to grab the scorebook.
Team Gleason heard about John's need to get around at baseball practice and stepped up to donate this golf cart.
It's literally become his legs out here.
It goes pretty fast, too.
Coach Oakley has followed Steve Gleason's ALS battle, and now with a keener eye.
There's the guy that, he's kind of on a pedestal. Incredible man.
Clearly, a lot of people would say the same about Coach Oakley.
The varsity team would like to present you with this baseball, which is signed by all the players. It is inscribed teacher, coach, hero, John Oakley.
He's had such an impact, even former players now on the Lewis and Clark High School team were moved to honor him.
Coach Oakley not only taught me to be a passionate player and student, but he showed me that through the ups and downs of life, everything's going to be all right.
Students are finding all kinds of ways to show their support.
Please donate for Mr. Oakley. Good luck.
Some writing things like, "You've inspired me beyond what words can explain."
Well, that's pretty cool. I get pretty emotional every time I visit with a lot of the kids. Just because, again, this is not the way I wanted to go out.
But if he has to go out, he's doing it big.
And make the most of every moment.
So he's carving out more time for the grandkids. And John and his sons recently toured some Major League Baseball parks, along with some other high points.
Go! One of the things he wanted to do was run up the Rocky stairs at the museum, and so we have a great picture of him with his hands up next to the Rocky statue. And of course, we called home and said, told our wives what we just did, and we got yelled at.
It's all right, good hustle down there, good hustle. I just think that life is way too short to worry about what we can't control.
With all the things ALS is taking from John Oakley, there is one thing it's giving.
You always hope you have an impact on somebody. You never know. Hey, throw a strike right here, kid.
If there was ever any doubt this coach was making a positive impact, today that doubt doesn't stand a chance.
Nice job, bud.
It's gone from thanks, coach, and handshakes to now they make sure they give him a hug before they leave the field. That's pretty cool.
Your reputation precedes you.
This coach's reputation is one any of us would be proud to earn.
Hey, good act, Jackson.
Despite carrying the burden of a very dark disease, John Oakley is still using his waning energy to deliver a very bright light.
If anything can come of this positive, it's for my SAC kids to learn how to deal with adversity and do it in a positive way.
You could see he was a special guy.
Yeah.
We aired that story in spring of 2016 initially, and we lost John to ALS a few months after that story aired. Here's how we remembered him on our newscast shortly after we found out he'd passed. I meet extraordinary people in my job every day, but it's not the celebrities or politicians or athletes I remember most. It's the ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Tonight, I want to take a few minutes to tell you about someone extraordinary. His name is John Oakley. We lost John today. I just found out a couple hours ago. A tragically evil disease called ALS took his life at the young age of 59. I met John because I was doing a story about his courageous life in the face of ALS. Some of you knew John because he was a familiar, friendly face on the sidelines of Gonzaga basketball games for years as he was running the clock. On Saturday, Gonzaga honored John before the game for his years of service to the program. The crowd roared their support for this humble man who emitted light. His example sparked something greater right here at KREM 2. KREM's news director, Noah Cooper, competed in Ironman Coeur d'Alene in August. He did it to raise money to help local ALS patients like John. And he wanted more people to know about John's example to help others coping with ALS. We put together a one-hour special on Noah's Ironman fundraiser. We called it Project Inspire End ALS. John waited at the Ironman finish line, and his presence and inspiration drew Noah to the finish when Noah's body was failing. John inspired this finish line moment.
I want you to have my Ironman medal. And when you're having a bad day, I want you to look at this and remember how your inspiration got me through a tough day, just like you've inspired hundreds of young men and women that you've coached and taught. Thank you for your example. Thank you for your inspiration. John Oakley, you're my Iron Man. Thank you.
I'm honored to have known John Oakley. I'm honored he let me bring you his story. John wasn't a celebrity or an athlete. He was your neighbor, the guy at the gym, the man behind you in line at the grocery store. Some would call that an ordinary life. I call it an extraordinary life for an incredible man who made a difference in hundreds of lives. And on this day, we lost this special man. Even if you didn't know him, my hope is for you to share some of the inspiration from the extraordinary life of John Oakley.
My goodness.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm always struck with when you interview like John Oakley or Steve Gleason, for example, is they're always so positive in spite of the hand they've been dealt.
Right. It's just such a great example for all of us, which is why, again, why we started Project Inspire. It's like if you have a rough day, maybe you'll think of one of these stories and change your perspective.
It's all about perspective,
Indeed.
Right? My goodness.
And Team Gleason actually made such a positive impact on the Oakley family that both of John's sons and their wives now volunteer with Team Gleason to help other families. They help with both big fundraisers, the golf tournament, and particularly the music festival, Gleason Fest here. So it is so touching to see them continue to help others in their father's memory.
Wow.
In that John Oakley remembrance, we saw him at the Ironman Coeur d'Alene, where he met Noah, right? And you told several emotional stories at Ironman over the course of several years.
Right, I spent a lot of time at that race. So many great athletes overcoming obstacles to finish that grueling triathlon. One of my favorites, though, was Scotty Smiley. Scotty decided to take on Ironman Coeur d'Alene despite having lost his eyesight while serving our country. Here's my story before Scotty's incredible Ironman race in 2015.
On April 6th of 2005, I was given a mission to find a suicide car bomb. I parked my Stryker vehicle about 30 yards away from his and yelled at him to get out of his vehicle. He looked over his left shoulder at me, raised his hands off the steering wheel and just shook his head no. And then boom, he detonated his car.
I was woken out of bed at 2 a.m. by a phone call. and they just kept saying, Scotty's hurt really bad, Scotty's hurt really bad. I still remember that moment. It was like the world froze and time stood still and everything was in slow motion.
I woke up about a week and a half later in Walter Reed Army Medical Center, blind the rest of my life.
The last image Scotty Smiley would ever see was evil personified in that suicide bomber. There, lying in a hospital bed, his world was black, his mind swirling. He'd cheated death, but couldn't help feeling cheated in the new life in which he'd emerged.
It was why me. I felt I had lived a good life. I had done what I was supposed to.
His mind flashed from one responsibility to the next. How would he even begin negotiating through this new world?
How was I going to take care of my wife, the woman that I loved, if I couldn't even take care of myself?
And I think back to that day, and I thought, when they said, you know, he'll never see again, I'm like, it's all over. We'll never do anything.
Scotty plummeted into deep depression.
I was in a state in which I couldn't see past the day.
The lifelong Christian began questioning his faith.
I was questioning life. I was questioning God.
It was a dark time for Scotty's wife, Tiffany, too. So many things had been stripped away, not the least of which dreams of having a family. It just no longer seemed practical.
This is already hard enough. This is our burden to carry. Why would we bring another child into this mess?
But soon Tiffany made a choice. She would turn her face toward light and pull Scotty with her.
I could let my mind go that way and say we're ruined and we're not going to be able to do anything, or I could go the other way and be his biggest cheerleader. And I sort of just took that on, even if I didn't believe it myself.
Slowly, she did start to believe, and positive feelings started to prevail. With the help of faith, family, and friends, their life, they decided, could be full again.
And for me, the only thing that enabled me to get out of that dark place was love.
Bad days led to a few good ones, followed by months that ebbed toward happy. Dreams started taking shape again.
And you know, when our first child was born, Grady, it makes me cry even thinking about his birth, but it was a time where Scotty and I both realized that we could have joy.
You're thinking back on a very powerful time in, well, I was going to say two ways, in many ways.
Yes, absolutely. It wasn't just the birth of our child. It was like so much more in that room.
They were taking back their life. Scotty resolved he'd no longer be bound by perceived limitations.
And I'm able to do so much in which I, 10 years ago when I was injured, never thought I could have done.
It's a mind-boggling list of accomplishments. Scotty became the U.S. Army's first blind active duty officer. He earned an MBA from Duke, and he's the father of 3 little boys.
Well, I'm told they're pretty. They're beautiful little boys, so.
Scotty also draws joy from physical feats he used to believe weren't possible. He's climbed Mount Rainier, surfed, skydived, and now he has a laser focus on his most daunting physical goal to date.
I hope to become an Ironman.
The Coeur d'Alene Ironman. With guidance from a training partner, Scotty will tackle a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a marathon, 26.2 miles.
So when it comes to hiking mountains and water skiing, snow skiing, having fun, it's something I didn't want to let go.
Scotty is grabbing life by the horns and taking it for the grandest ride.
What do you think the Scotty of that time would think of the Scotty now that's done all these things?
Oh, he would call me a liar. He would say there's no way that can happen.
Clearly, that Scotty had no idea what great things were to come. Whether or not Scotty becomes an official Ironman, well, that's almost beside the point. For Scotty and Tiffany, life is lived in the daily details, adding up to an incredible journey.
There are moments where you think you're not going to make it, or you want to give up, or you're like, what are we doing? But Scotty's always like, no, joy is something you sort of have to work for sometimes. And when you work for it, when you receive it, I think it means so much more.
Gosh. You are doing it, Jane. You have put together a
Jeez.
cast of incredible characters.
Wow.
So just a few weeks after that story aired, Scotty and Andy finished Ironman Coeur d'Alene together. So here's video of them running down to the finish line along Sherman Avenue. This is one of my favorite moments of all time. So to be called an Ironman, you have to finish all 140.6 miles in fewer than 17 hours. Well, Scotty and Andy made it across the finish line with minutes to spare.
By the way, that was also the hottest Ironman Coeur d'Alene race ever. Listen to this. It was 105 degrees that day.
It was so hot for us, and we weren't even competing. Also memorable was Scotty and Tiffany after the race at the finish line, just hugging and so much joy. And I love those two. I talked with Scotty the other day. He and his family have moved back to their hometown of Pasco, Washington. He works for Drexel Hamilton, which is a disabled veteran-owned and operated bank. And then he and his wife Tiffany also travel a lot as motivational speakers. They both motivate and inspire people about living life with purpose and how to build a fulfilling life after tragedy. And as you just saw in that story, they're really good at that.
Yeah.
My goodness.
They made this conscious effort to make joy their default mode.
Right.
When others, people like me and people who have nothing to complain about, that's sometimes a struggle to make that. I mean, the amount of grace that these folks have on all these stories is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it before, but it's about perspective, right? Like, what do we have to complain about when these folks who face so much adversity are doing what they're doing?
Right, and all of them will say, hey, your problems are real too. It's not to diminish anyone else's, but again, it is about perspective and maybe counting the joys you have in your life.
Yeah, it's important stuff, right, to take note of. Well, a few months ago, you won an Emmy for your story on a local Gonzaga prep athlete whose entire life story is inspirational.
Yeah, I want to be him. Sam Dowd is awesome. Sam overcame homelessness on the streets of Tacoma with the help of an incredible family in Spokane. So I did 2 stories over the years on Sam, one in 2014 and the other in 2018, which is the one we'll show you now.
Court by Sam Dowd, a 5'7", 167-pound junior from Seattle, Washington.
Basketball always played a big role in my life.
Dowd, jumper good, 12 feet, angle right. 10 points for Sam Dowd.
What do you think when you think back to your old life?
I think about what I've been through.
Dowd lays it up and in.
I think about how hard it was.
Sam's making a huge imprint on this game.
They say adversity breeds character, and Sam Dowd conveys character in every move.
I think that's what drives me.
You see, there's much more than muscle memory launching this 5'7" Idaho State guard to the rim.
I think about the times like sleeping outside. When I was about, 10 or 11, I was pretty much abandoned.
Sam was just a young boy in Tacoma when his parents, mired in addiction, turned their backs, launching Sam onto the streets. For years, the little boy bounced from one friend's couch to the next, trying to grab a meal anywhere he could. Some nights, there were no invitations, and the kid with the solid layup simply slept outside.
Just, being in poverty, being alone, being abandoned. I think basketball is that filler.
Basketball came through with the ultimate assist. Sam's club team was his one constant, through which he eventually met players from Spokane. At the beckoning of one kind family, Sam enrolled at Gonzaga Prep for his sophomore year. But when that summer arrived, it was time to find a new home.
It was, I don't know, it was just meant to be.
That's when 2 angels dropped into his life.
And he can depend on the family now, which is us.
6 years ago, Ron and Jill Miller not only gave then 16-year-old Sam a home, They were proud to officially become his parents too.
It's all up to Mom, really.
They adopted Sam, whose baby picture now hangs in the Millers' home.
And it actually was stained, and so I took it to a photo place and had it restored, and so it hangs up there with my other two kids and their baby pictures.
Kind of looking, you know, from this picture to me, I just wouldn't want another child or anybody to go through what I've been through.
I don't think, you know, you would ever know if you were around him what he had been through in his life. And so I think when people hear a little bit about it, they're just so amazed that he was, you know, where he was, homeless, and then has come so far, has been able to achieve so much.
The U.S. Basketball Writers Association agrees, which is why they recently awarded Sam their National Most Courageous Award at this ceremony in San Antonio.
Like, wow, this is like a big deal.
Ron and Jill were there as their son was presented this prestigious award. They were there to hear his heartfelt thanks.
First, thank my family. Ron Miller, Jill Miller, who changed my life. Sacrificing, put in effort to change my life completely. So thank you guys. I said I love you. Sorry.
It was very touching.
Sam believes the Millers saved his life, figuratively and perhaps even literally.
Man, I feel like I'll be, you know, just on the streets, maybe, you know, in Seattle, in Tacoma, and just not in a good situation, like maybe in jail or dead.
Instead, Sam worked to excel in school and proved with larger-than-life determination a 5'7" player can make it in college hoops.
We are seeing the emergence of Sam Dowd tonight.
And having family in the crowd, well, that's an amazing feeling, second only to the feeling of coming home.
Did they leave your room how you left it?
Yes, and that's what I love, coming home to, I don't know, just my room.
And he'll always know that he can always come back here whenever he wants in his life.
I always say, you know, you just are sunshine in my life, because he is. He's just been a joy.
That's probably because Sam consistently chooses joy and rejects resentment of his past.
Like, I just never want to be like, oh, that shouldn't have happened to me, and nah, I think it made me who I am today. I like the underdog.
Who he is today is a grateful young man who will undoubtedly have more hurdles to climb and conquer.
He will do great in life. We just know that for a fact.
Because Sam won't be bogged down when life brings trouble or tears. After all, he's been there and he's learned this.
You can get through anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, you can be at your all-time low, but your life can change really fast.
Just choose joy and believe in the power of positivity.
Yeah, I'm always gonna keep smiling. Yeah.
1,000-watt smile.
Yeah. Maybe the best smile of anybody I've ever seen, right? My goodness.
Yes. It was a bit more difficult catching up with Sam as he is working to join one of the national teams in the Philippines right now.
Wow.
He graduated college, and this is particularly fitting because Sam is half Filipino. He's 15 hours ahead, so we text each other at odd times. He is doing great, though, and today it looks promising that he'll continue his basketball career overseas, and we are definitely rooting for him.
Again, he's just 5'7", trying to make it as a professional basketball player.
Yeah, 6'5" and determination.
Yeah, no kidding. Go get him, Sam. Well, we are going to take a very short break and come back with 3 more amazing stories that Jane did, including the one that earned her a National Murrow Award.
I love that one.
Yeah, stay with us. We're back after this.